Today, we're going to explore a really fascinating way to tackle a huge social issue. And we're not talking about protests or debates here, but something different: data and simulation. We're going to see how a digital model could actually help give people a real second chance.
But let's start with a really big question. Just imagine, what if lawmakers could see the real-world consequences of a new law before a single vote was cast? What if they could test drive policies to see which ones actually work? Now, I know, it sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's actually closer to reality than you might think.
All right, to understand why this is so important, we have to start with the problem. And it's a big one, a vast kind of invisible wall that blocks millions of people from finding work. So get this, in New York State alone, there are over 500 different laws and regulations that can stop someone with a criminal record from getting a job. I mean, 500. That's not a typo. It's this incredibly complex maze of restrictions that's been built up layer by layer over decades. And look, this isn't just a New York problem. Not by a long shot. If you zoom out, the picture gets way, way bigger. Across the entire United States, there are more than 46,000 of these. They're called collateral consequences. Basically, legal barriers that follow a person long after they've served their time. Now, what's really interesting here is how this all happened. You can see two trends just moving in lockstep. That red line, that's the incarceration rate. And the blue bars, those are the number of federal laws that restrict work. And you can see they just climb and climb right alongside each other.
Okay, let's break that down. If you go all the way back to 1928, there were very few of these laws. But then, right around 1975, something shifts. You see that dotted line? That's the inflection point. It's where both incarceration rates and these restrictive laws just start to skyrocket, creating this vicious cycle that can trap people even after they've left prison.
So what you have is this massive, tangled web of laws. The question is, how do you even begin to understand its real impact, let alone try to fix it? Well, that's what brings us to the next part of this story, actually modeling the maze. And this really is the crucial question, isn't it? Because these aren't just words on a page. They have a very real effect on people's lives. But measuring that total cumulative effect has always been, incredibly difficult. Well, until now. The answer, it turns out, is to build a simulation. The best way to think about it is like a flight simulator. But instead of training pilots, it's used to test fly public policy. You create this whole virtual world to see what happens when you change the rules, but with absolutely zero real-world risk. The technology that makes this possible is called an agent-based simulation. What researchers did was create a virtual population of 1,000 agents. Each one is basically a simulated person with a unique conviction history. And then these agents go out and try to find a job in a digital version of New York that's governed by all 500 of those real-world restrictive laws. And here's just a quick peek under the hood, so to speak. The model is built with parameters taken straight from reality. So you've got our 1,000 job seekers, 10 major job sectors that have barriers, and a baseline employment rate of 72% for people who don't have a record. All this stuff is what makes the simulation a really credible reflection of the real world. Okay, so we've got the problem, and now we have the tool. It's time to take this simulator for a spin and start test driving some actual policy reforms. So the researchers tested a few different scenarios. First up, the baseline. That's just what's happening right now. Then they started changing the rules. They asked, what if we only restrict jobs that are directly related to a past crime? Or what if these barriers just expired after a certain number of years? And for the grand finale, what if we tried a full package of reforms all at once? And okay, this is where it gets really, really powerful. After running thousands of these virtual people through literally millions of job applications under all these different rule sets, the simulation spit out some pretty stunning results. First, let's look at the baseline. That bar on the left shows an employment access rate of over 70% when there are no restrictions. But then, look at the bar right next to it. Under current New York laws, the rate for people with a conviction history just plummets to 47.4%. That right there is the problem, visualized. Okay, now watch what happens as we start to apply the reforms. With narrow tailoring, boom, the rate goes up. With duration limits, it jumps even higher, actually surpassing the baseline. And this just brilliantly illustrates the potential here. We can see, bar by bar, which policies have the biggest positive impact. And that brings us to the full reform scenario. Under this comprehensive approach, the employment access rate just shoots up to an incredible 91.6%.
I mean, that is a truly game-changing number. So the crucial takeaway is this. The simulations shows that a smart, comprehensive set of reforms could nearly double a person's access to employment. We're talking from just over 47% to over 91%. That's the difference between a dead end and a real second chance. And all of this brings us to the ultimate goal of the entire project, which is using data to build better, fairer, and more effective laws.
And look, this isn't just some academic exercise. State legislators? They can use this to model bills before they're even passed. Researchers? They can dig deeper into the data. And advocacy groups can take these clear visual results and make a really powerful data-driven case for reform.
And that really gets to the heart of what this is all about. The whole goal is to take hundreds of pages of dense, complicated legal text and translate all that complexity into something everyone can understand, a chart, a number, a piece of clear visual evidence.
And that leaves us with one last kind of provocative thought. For so long, we've made laws based on, well, on intuition or tradition, or sometimes even fear. But now we have tools that can actually show us a better way forward based on real evidence. So if we can simulate a path to a better system, the only question left is, what's stopping us from taking it?